Hey. Okay, so I'm gonna do a reading from a book as per usual, and the reason why I'm doing it is because I feel anxious, and so I don't know. I'm going along with this theory that I'm gonna make myself do something that's a bit of a challenge, but essentially it is to hopefully just overcome just something small so that I can sort of release whatever it is that I'm feeling, be it anxiety or whatever it is. I hope to find out. Um, okay, climb the steps, no pressure. They say you live the life you choose, but what if you did not receive your so called chosen life? I seem to think that by some error I received the wrong life. I did not choose this life. I certainly never chose to be the way I am. I wanted to live the way of love and joy, but as fate would have it, it did not quite happen that way. How could it be that I have become so profoundly unhappy? Is it all due to some absurd flaw in nature? A flaw that remained unchanged and uninfluenced by human choice, perhaps? Or is it for a reason not yet discovered? Honestly, who would want to endure each day with the sole goal of merely lasting through the day? Who would want to carry on when difficulties only seem to worsen with time? So, they say we choose. But what happens if you decide to make things better and they simply become worse? I chose to make a change. I elected the attempt of improvement. But in the end, I felt I may as well have given up, as it proved to make no visible difference, whatever the choice. Now, what I just said may seem negative, but the mind state in which it was comprehended at the time formulated a realistic, I don't know about realistic to be honest, and slightly ruminative opinion, strongly influenced by shocking reality and tough life experience. I guess one could say I adopted a nihilistic way of thinking. My muddled mind constantly asks questions, but all they do is enhance broken relief and unsuccessful inner debate. I hope for solutions. I hope for my negative self awareness to do a backflip out of my body. Unfortunately, I become overwhelmed by desperation to find resolutions to my web of illustrious confusion. My messy consciousness has converted into a team of arsenic criminals who possess no will to provide reprieve. The firemen in my head have failed to make an appearance. I tend to think that I will never be. Oh, I don't want to read this part. Okay, but I read this when I was this is like 10 years ago that I wrote this. I was going through. Sounds like I'm making excuses. Let me just do this. Um, I tend to think that I will never be a savior. I cannot even save myself. I survive, but I don't live. I breathe, but I breathe in smoke. My grasp is lost in a jungle, and I have no compass. I'll die in the midst of absent faith and discontent. That's pretty hectic, okay? Factoring in the challenges above, I approach the unsolved with a response instead of a solution. The response is that sometimes there are no answers. Sometimes you merely have to do, even when you cease to see cause or reason, even when it involves merely carrying on without clear direction. Let me be completely honest with you. I struggle to understand why this is. It makes absolutely no sense for someone to go through life without reason, but I do it. I carry on no matter how much I don't want to be here. Why? I haven't quite figured that out yet. Perhaps I will never know. Perhaps no one will ever know. But perhaps why is not the point. That's good. One needs to climb up to the pinnacle of acceptance without expectation of miraculous solutions. Release the pressure. Just do. Just climb. No whys allowed. Embrace the experience instead of ignorantly foreseeing an unguaranteed arrival. In this world we live in, there isn't always an answer, and we need to learn to accept that. If we cannot, then we proceed to open up opportunities for disappointment and unfulfilled expectations to find us yet again. That is not typically what we want, is it? I suspect the average answer would be no. So we can choose, but only whilst keeping in mind that we will never be guaranteed of the product of that choice. We can, however, attempt to change or control our current actions, but we can never presently control the outcome. In this day and age, outcome and ultimate choice is out of our hands. With all that said, I cannot help asking again. I cannot help trying to find out more. So I ask, what am I supposed to do now? With me having no meaning, so-called. What benefits does that provide, if any at all? Is it what opens one's mind, lending to more insight? Maybe it creates a unique vicissitude in one's perception. Could it be the mechanism that transforms one's way of thinking to a point that one's awareness becomes vastly alternate to before? Could the openness of lack of meaning actually be the portal to develop one's mind? I wonder. I'm not sure if the former is virtuous or corrupt, but so what, right? Why does it have to resort to good or bad? There is no certainty in either of them. There is, however, a large possibility that the entire everything for nothing mind state will remain unperturbed. I also need to be aware of the fact that no meaning may not be beneficial to me in the way that I expect. What is the gift here? The first thing that comes to mind is that due to all of this, one is not bound by anything. What I mean is that one's purpose, or lack thereof, does not become pressure because it no longer exists. Hence, one becomes free in a way, free to observe life, including all of its beauties and extremities. There is no more a life goal boxing one up or hanging over one's head. On the other hand, this could all be a step, simply a step. Let me explain. Imagine the physical action of climbing steps, an action we repeat so often. Does each and every step hold a specific meaning or abstract cause? No. Every so often one is unaware that one is even climbing. Certain steps resemble touchstones, these being both motivators and reminders. And certain steps are broken. They teach you to climb back up when you fall down and to avoid the broken step the next time, if there is one. But many steps are merely the in-between. We often do not remember that we even climbed them. This whilst failing to realize that each in their own held no specific meaning. They were purely steps. Steps. The touchstones, the broken, and the in-between are an integral part of the process of life. Whether there is meaning or no meaning, climb the steps. There is no pressure. Just do. Keep on going. Everyone has the gift of the steps of life. So that is actually the first chapter of my book. And I wrote it. I like to add this as a disclaimer because, I don't know, I suppose it helps me feel better. I wrote this book in the midst of trauma, literally just after my mom had passed, and she passed in my arms. She had a long fight with cancer, and she suffered a lot. Anyway, so after she passed, I literally, there was no meaning. I thought that I lost most of who I was, not that I knew who I was in any case, but I felt also that my purpose of life, not that I knew what that was either, was so fulfilled, and that I was left with no purpose, and that there was no meaning, there was no purpose. Very, very nihilistic thinking, a lot of ruminative thinking. Anyway, so I chose to write a book, and so and now I'm sort of journeying through it yet again, and it's been kind of interesting because on the one hand, I can identify sort of with what this person, me, the younger me, is trying to say. Um, and I may agree with it or not. I may be able to expand on it, and I may be able to say, "Oh, that's kind of bullshit," or "Oh, okay, that's really naive." And I think for that reason, sometimes I can feel sort of a little bit embarrassed or shy, especially with these videos, because um, yeah, I feel I don't need to explain that. I suppose more vulnerable, I think, and yeah, but I think it's a good practice to sort of put yourself out there and push past that vulnerability. Um, Not to a crazy extent, though, just safely. And also, I want to finish this challenge or task that I gave myself so that I can actually start speaking about other things and or these things that I spoke about in the book, but from a more sort of now perspective, or where I'm at sort of 10 years later. Or yeah, and I kind of also yeah, so that's the one hand, and then the other hand is that I think I'm still figuring that out. Um, but anyway, past that, I really want to sort of put this book to rest. If that doesn't make sense to you, that I understand. Um, and I can't quite explain it yet, but I think it's a different form of closure, and I think it's a good thing. It's sort of part of healing and sort of wrapping up my mind, and there's a lot of things that have been beneficial in doing these like very amateur videos and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I hope to just learn from this and move on and finally put this book to bed and to rest, knowing that I've sort of extracted and used it in all the ways that I could, trying to get the goodness from it, trying to utilize it in a way that I hope is helpful. I can say that it has been helpful to me in a way. It has sort of sparked certain initiatives or initial thinking, and it's also sparked some insights for me as well. Or it's given me sort of also a small capacity, if anything, or entrance to some sort of capacity to really channel sort of some empathy and understanding. And of course, it's to this person in the book, but who wrote the book, but it's also to me. And in that way, I've really been meditating on being kind and being kind to oneself, and in that also realizing that if you can be kind to yourself, you can also extend that and be kind to others, and how that's very, very important. And sometimes you can think of yourself, you can have this separation, and there's you and there's this part of you, and you can, you treat that person or part of you with kindness, and that kindness can sort of be reflected back to you, and there can be some kind of resonancy between. Then it's almost like something comes into place. There's balance. There's I suppose there's just kindness. Be kind, be kind, and the one to the other and the other to the one, and then there's like being kind. And that to me immediately makes me think of kindness filling the being that I am fully, and understanding it and accepting it, and then being able to give it out again because of that infilling. And I think that what I'm speaking about now, kindness, is just one of the examples. And so, yeah, be kind to one another, and I hope that you have an awesome day. It's very cold here in South Africa, but, that's one of the things. Uh, anyway, lots of love, and just know that just don't give up. Whatever you're going through, literally, giving up is not an option. Just keep on keeping on and know that you are not alone. You are not alone, nor are you the first, last, or only. So, there's a lot of resources out there, whatever you're going through. Everybody needs healing, so do you. And there's no shame in seeking that. And yeah, may God bless you, and may you have an amazing weekend. Ciao.